Okay. Hey, y'all. This week we're still gonna be talking about World War I, and I figured it'd be a good idea to kind of go through the notes with you guys, so you have like the full story of what happened. Because it's some good stuff. Okay, as of last week, you started looking at the map of what World War I looked like. I'm sorry, of what Europe looked like before World War I, and you looked at like the final straw of what started World War I. So we're gonna look at all of it today, and I'm gonna try and explain it as best as I can through this PowerPoint. It's no rush. You have a week to get this done, so I would suggest maybe watching about 5 minutes at a time each day. So World War I. World War I was very important, and I know you hear about it so much. And the main reason is because this is the first war where we have a significant amount of lives lost. For it to be such a short war, the war lasted about 4 years, and within those 4 years, you have 8 million people to die because of the war. Um, You also have 22 million people wounded during this course of time, and the map of Europe is greatly changed. Okay, so this is what Europe looked like before World War One, and this is what Europe looks like now. So as you can see, there are some major differences. Some of them being that Germany and Austria-Hungary are much smaller. You have the creation of countries like the Czechoslovakia, you have the creation of Poland, Prussia, and Turkey is a lot smaller. You have the creation of Bulgaria. Greece is pushed down a little bit more than it is now. Romania is bigger, and Serbia is just gone. All of those things changed during the war, and we're going to talk about some of the reasons why. So there are five main reasons for World War I, and the easiest way to remember that is through mania. Okay, so if anybody ever says what were the reasons of World War I, you think mania. So the M stands for militarism, the A stands for alliances, the N stands for nationalism, the I stands for imperialism, and the last A stands for the assassination. And you already know about the assassination because that's what you studied last week. All right, so the M. So militarism is basically a race for creating more weapons of mass destruction among nations. So a race is just like a race anywhere, not like the race of my skin, but like a actual race. And so you have a bunch of countries basically trying to be the top country through their military. So they're investing tons of time, they're investing tons of money, tons of resources into creating bigger and better weapons, the most destructive weapons. I want my countries to have weapons that other countries are going to fear, so that I can basically come in and take over those countries using force. And that is a nation all over the world that were just building up their military so that they can have the strongest army, the strongest navy, so that they can have all of these things and be feared and not have to fear any other nation. So you have these major nations that are building up their military. And because of that, you have alliances to form. So people are just like, oh, we're just building up these militaries just in case, like nothing big is gonna happen. But other people are like, no, I see something happening. And so they start to create these alliances. And so the first set of alliances that were created are called the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. That's how you pronounce that word. And the Triple Entente of Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy basically counterbalance the Triple Entente of France, Russia, and Great Britain. And so if you look at the map, this is how they are located now. So in the center, you have Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. And surrounding them, you have Great Britain or Britain, France, and Russia. And so they create these alliances, and now it's like a little 3-on-3 thing they got going on, kind of like on Pro Am. You can play three on, I think Pro Am is 3-on-3, but kind of like Pro Am. And so you have the Triple Alliance versus the Triple Entente. Now, at the time, they're just like, we're just looking out for each other. It's nothing, nothing's happening here. And then you have nationalism, the end. And nationalism is basically like an extreme love and pride for your country. Like, as Americans, we feel like I love being American. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But nationalism is taking that to a new level. You feel like just because you're American, you're better than other people, or just because you're from a certain place, you're smarter, you're more creative, and you feel like everybody should be like you. Why are other people a different country? Like, why isn't the whole world American? So that's the part of nationalism where you want to spread your influence of how you feel because you feel like the way that your country runs things is the best way. And so nationalism began to spread, and nationalism is strong during these time periods. Like, people are proud to be where they're from. Um, and people want to spread that influence. They're like, why are they this way? We need to go over there and take over and make them like us. And so, because of that, you have a strong sense of nationalism in different European countries. And European countries are not like America. We're a little bit more isolated. But European countries, they're really close to each other. And so, all of that kind of like creates a little frictioning conflict. And then you have the introduction of imperialism. Well, not the introduction, but the reintroduction. And if you remember, imperialism is when a stronger country basically uses force and their power to take over a weaker country. So, like the little countries that, can't really sit with the big kids, they're just at the mercy of, who's ever there. And so these bigger countries, they want to spread their influence and they want to do that through imperialism. So they don't mind striking up a deal or an alliance with a bigger country, but the smaller countries who they feel like they can just come in and take over just like that, they just want to do that. It seems a lot simpler. And because of that, you have places like Great Britain, you have places like Germany, and you have places like France that need some raw materials, and they want to increase their markets, they want to increase their manufacturing, they want to increase all of these things, but that takes money and they don't want to spend that money when they can go and get it for free. Okay, so where are we going to go and get it from? Same place we went and got the slaves. We're going to go to Africa. So you have a European conquest of Africa. And if you look at the chart, you can see that Great Britain and France had a major influence in Africa. And when I say influence, they did not ask any of these Africans for this stuff, for this gold, for these diamonds, for these resources, for these weapons, for these factories that they just came in and set up. They didn't ask them at all. Okay. They just went over there and took it. I just took it. And because of that, the African economy is still recovering because they were over there for years, as you can see. And so that is an example of imperialism. So not only did they take people from Africa, they went and took so many other things from Africa to basically strip them of who they were, um, all of their resources, everything that basically made the continent as great as it is. Now, this is the spark that basically made it all go down. The other reasons are just like built up reasons. is sort of like, it's sort of like if you and somebody that you know got into a big argument in eighth grade. And in eighth grade, y'all was this close to fighting. Like y'all was real close, but somebody came in and like broke it up. So then, um, y'all didn't fight, and then the school year was basically over. So you didn't see that person again until high school, and you was over it. And so you was over it, but you still weren't talking to them. Everybody knew that y'all didn't like each other. So 3 years down the road, um, a big commotion's going on, and this person makes a mistake and bumps into you and steps on your shoe or something, and all of a sudden y'all fight, right? Is it the bump on your shoulder or him stepping or her stepping on your shoe what causes the fight? No, it's everything that's built up to that moment to where that was just the last straw. Okay, so it's the same thing with World War I. Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism, all these things were the things that built up each and every year, until the assassination came and just set it all off. And that was the spark. So the Black Hand is a terrorist group, you guys. And this terrorist group was very serious. They had one mission, and that was they wanted to unite their country. They wanted to create a greater Serbia with Bosnia. And they didn't like that Bosnia was basically out of their hands. So they were like, we have one mission, and our mission is to create this greater Serbia. And we only have one way to do that, and that is through violence. Um, that's it. We're not here to talk. We're not here to negotiate. We're not here to march. There's only one way we know, and that is through violence. So that's what they did. And so they wanted to create a greater Serbia through violence. So here you have a picture of Mr. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and that is a major title. That basically means that one day he is going to run his country. And so, because of that, he knew that tensions were a little high in Bosnia. So, him and his wife went down there one day to kind of like have a little parade and let the people know that we're here for you. And I know tensions are high, but I want this to be political. I want this to go over smoothly. So him and his wife went to like a town hall meeting and a parade afterwards. And during the parade, that was the Black Hands chance, and they went through with it and assassinated him and his pregnant wife. And when they assassinated him, just imagine how we would feel if one of our world leaders were assassinated. We wouldn't play that, okay? And so, because of that, he was killed, and the Black Hand was like, yeah, we did it. And now that the Black Hand said that they did it, they said the reason why that they did it, it created something called a domino effect. And dominoes effects are simple. It's like if you set up dominoes and you have one thing after the other to happen. Sorry. And so basically, Austria Hungary blamed Serbia for Franz Ferdinand death. Okay, so Austria Hungary, let's just say they on the phone that night after everything that happened, and they talking on the phone to their friend Germany, and they like, Germany, I cannot believe what Serbia did today. Like, I understand they was mad, but they want to assassinate our future leader. Like, that's a little too far. And so, because of that, I feel like I don't have no other choice but to fight them. Like, you feel me, right? And Germany was like, yeah, because you my friend, and they shouldn't have did you like that, because Archduke Franz Ferdinand didn't do anything to anybody. All he was doing was trying to go down there and show them support, and that's what they want to do to you. No, you need to fight them. And in fact, I'm gonna fight them too. So if you want to fight them, I'm gonna support you in everything that you need. Okay. And then Austria Hungary was like, "You right, Germany." So then Russia was on the phone with Serbia and was like, that was kind of messed up what you did, but I'm gonna support you anyway because you best friend. And so I'm not finna let nobody just come in and play you off one little thing. If you did it, then that's what you did, and I'm gonna support you. And I see Germany trying to back up Austria Hungary, like that's gonna scare somebody, and it's not. So I'm gonna support you too because just like Germany got a lot of weapons, I have a lot of weapons too. And so you're not gonna let Austria Hungary just come over there and try and bully you. Okay? And so then Germany was like, "Can you believe what Russia said? I can't believe Russia gonna even try and jump in this like that's her business or his business or something." So Germany was like, "That's fine. I'm gonna declare on war on Russia since they want to play like that." And so Russia was like, whatever, we ain't scared. And so then France found out because France not really friends with Serbia, but they friends with Russia. And France was like, oh, no, no, ain't nobody finna try and fight you. I'm finna jump in because you're my friend and we in this little alliance together. Okay. And so France pledges to support Russia. And Germany was like, France who? What's up, France? So France was like, okay, whatever. We'll declare on you. I'm Germany. I declare war on anybody. It doesn't matter. You can get France. You can get Russia. You can get all y'all. All three of y'all can come at one time. It does not matter to me. So they declare war on France too. And so Germany ready to go. They're not ready to talk about it. They're ready to go. So to get over to France, if you remember, the map, you got to go through Belgium. Okay, you got to go through Belgium to get over to France. And so instead of just peacefully going through Belgium, France do like Germany do like a little warm up. They do a little warm up. So in a little warm up, they kind of invade Belgium along the way, and Belgium had literally nothing to do with it. Belgium just outside walking the dog that day. They just don't understand like what's happening, why we getting beat up, and we don't even know anything was happening. So Great Britain was like, why would you do that? Like, I don't like when people pick on the little people because that's not fair to them. They ain't do nothing to y'all. And so because of that, Great Britain, they support Belgium and they say we're gonna fight you too, Germany. Now everybody ganging up on Germany, but Germany does not care. Germany like, well, I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. So this is what we've been building up to all these years. So, here we go. So now you have the start of World War One, and you have the Central Powers versus the Allied Powers. And on the Central Power side, you have Germany, you have Austria-Hungary, you have the Ottoman Empire, and you have Bulgaria. And on the Allied power sides, you have Russia, France, Great Britain, Italy, Japan, and the United States. And I'm just going to pause right here because does anybody see Serbia? And that's who started it. Does anybody see Bosnia? No. So literally, this was just a little clever ruse to me to just get all of this started because now everybody done really forgot the whole reason why we're here, and it's just gotten out of control. So World War One starts. And for the first 3 years of World War One, it was something called a stalemate. And a stalemate means that neither side can move to win. So like it's everybody just keep bumping heads and it's like a tie every single time. I'm throwing my all at you and you're throwing your all at me and it's a tie. But the thing with war is even though it's a tie, people are still dying. People are still losing their lives every day. Soldiers are joining the war, not coming back home. Soldiers are being injured. They're basically like pawns now. It's almost like soldiers are just going out to die, and you can't have that. So you have millions and millions of people are dying, and so they try to feel like if I get a better weapon, then I'll have the advantage. And so then you have this introduction of all of these new weapons during World War One. You have the machine gun, you have poisonous gas, and with poisonous gas, it was carried by the wind. They would spray it into certain areas, and for a while, they had to watch the weather because sometimes, the wind blows backwards. So they would spray it, and then it would blow backwards, and they would kill themselves off the gas that they sprayed to kill the enemy. Um, they had submarines, airplanes, tanks, there were hand grenades, and there are also flamethrowers. And so you have all of these weapons at a basically just killing people, you know, mercilessly. And it's really hard. And so this is also the introduction of what something you call trench warfare. And trench warfare is a type of fighting during World War One in which both sides dug trenches protected by mines, and barbed wire. And so the barbed wire and the mines basically were surrounded by a dugout. Almost, I guess that's the best way to describe it, but I'll show you in a second. And so people would dig these trenches and they would go inside them until they prepared to attack in the middle. But if you attack too soon, you could get shot. And it was really dangerous. So there was a myth going around that everybody at war was happy. This is war. I'm happy to be fighting for my country. But this was the reality of the trench. And so you have people who are on watch, you have people sleeping on the ground. Um, if they didn't have time to bury you, sometimes you would have people that were just surrounded by dead bodies. It was a survival to the survival almost, because you had to survive the trenches as well as the fighting that was going on in the war. If you wanted to look at the trench from an aerial view, this is how it would look. This area here is called no man's land. And in no man's land, it's called that because if you went out there by yourself or unguarded or without like a plan, the opposite country that was near you would basically assassinate you right then and there. Then you have your communication trench and your fire bay trench, and then all the way in the back you have your support trench. And as you can see, there's like two bunk beds there. So everybody didn't get a bunk bed. They were reserved for higher ranking officers. Here's the same picture again in black and white. And here is a picture of the British trench that we just looked at. So life in the trenches basically sucked. You have concrete machine gun nests. You have troops that lived in holes underground. Sometimes the troops would get bored. They would read to pass the time. There are plenty of letters that you can look up from soldiers who were in the trenches, letters that people wrote home while living in the trenches. Here is another photograph. And here is just a quote from a soldier. He was saying that we all had the stench of dead bodies on us. A lot of the soldiers thought about death a lot. And there was the introduction of shell shock, or the introduction of what we know as PTSD, where there is a psychological devastation of how these people, even if they did survive, they had memories, or there's something psychologically that's happening to them that is changing them. The next picture is quite disgusting, but it is realistic. And so this is a picture of something called trench foot. And like I said, you're surviving the trenches as well as trying to survive the war. So, trench foot is an example of what could happen to your feet if you're not properly taking care of them while you're living in the ground. So, let's just say it rained and your socks got wet and you didn't have a new pair of dry socks, and it would basically erode into your feet, or different things like that that could happen. Most people had to get their foot cut off to prevent it from, you know, corroding the rest of their bodies. The next thing I'm going to do is show you some pictures of some weapons. And while we're doing that, I'm going to talk to you about how America joined the war. So, during the war, like I said, it was a stalemate for about 3 years. And then Germany started something called unrestricted submarine fare, which means that if we see it in the water, we're going to blow it up. Okay. So, that's like against the law because technically you're only supposed to blow up war related things. So, one day there was a ship called the Lusitania, and on the ship, it was a passenger ship. Um, Germany just blew it up. I don't know how else to say it. So Germany just blew it up, and on the ship there were about 128 Americans killed on the ship. And America was like, "Why would you do that? You know, you're not supposed to, hurt or harm civilian things during war." And Germany was like, "Well, we had reason to believe that it was some weapons on there." And technically, Germany was right, but the United States is not going to admit to that. So, um, the United States was like, "Don't do that no more. If you do that again, then we're going to join the war because you can't just keep killing American people, and we're not even a part of this. Like, this is none of our business." And so, Germany was like, "Okay, you're right, United States, because we scared of you, so we're not gonna do it." And so Germany ain't scared of nobody, okay? And so Germany, they wrote a little letter to Mexico, and they was like, "Look, we grown, and the United States trying to treat us like we not grown, and telling us what we can't do in war. So we gonna keep blowing up these ships." And if you join our side when the United States were in the war, when we beat up them, then we'll give you all the land that the United States took back from you. And before Mexico could get the letter, a British spy got it. He interpreted the letter and gave it to the United States. The United States printed all of the newspapers. The you know, the United States was angry. The people of America are they're horrified, and you know, Germany did what they said they was gonna do. So the United States basically joined the war. And after the United States joined the war, it basically brought in the advantage that the Allied side needed, and mainly because the United States, they had fresh soldiers. They brought in more numbers, more ideas, different things of that nature. So when the United States came in, the war ended shortly after. Like the United States joined in 1917, the war ended in 1918. And that pretty much sums up the most important parts of World War One. So if you have any questions, please email me and let me know. And yeah, I think that's about it. All right, love y'all. Bye.